You can go with. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the September 1st meeting of the Finance and Risk Management Committee of San Diego Community Power. Would you please call roll, Kimberly?
City of La Mesa representative,
Here.
City of San Diego representative.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Is there any public comment for non-agenda items?
There are no public comments and no hands raised.
Thank you. Anything staff wants to add or remove from the agenda?
Nothing to add, Chair Moore.
Thank you very much. And we'll move on to item 1, Treasurer's Report for fiscal year end 6/30/22.
Thanks again, Chair Moore and Director LaCava for joining us on the FRMC. We're presenting for a recommendation from this body to move forward to the board for receive and file the Treasurer's Report for our fiscal year end period ending June 30, 2022. Next slide, Kimberly. So this first slide presents a budget to actual results for the fiscal year end period. So we finished the year about 2% over the budgeted revenue. Primarily contributed to that result is that the participation rates were better than expected. And so we were able to retain a lower opt-out rate than was actually presented in the budget. I think we budgeted for a 5% opt-out rate, and actual opt-out rates were just under 3%. So that contributed to the results. That also contributed to us being about 4 percentage points under budget on the budgeted expenses for the fiscal year end, so contributed to a better than expected result. So essentially at fiscal year in 2022, our operating revenues came in at $383 million compared to the $374 million that we had budgeted, $378 million that we had budgeted for. My apologies there. And then the energy costs were actually lower than we had expensed for, primarily as a result of our hedging prior to delivering of those resources, in spite of the energy market increasing, but because we hedged prior to that actually occurring. And for fiscal year 2022, I think when we set the budget, we were about 80% hedged at the time. So that contributed to better than expected results in terms of energy costs. And then that contributed to a better than expected net position for the year, finishing out at almost 57 million compared to the about 36 million that we had budgeted for. So that's the budget to actual financial results. Next slide, Kimberly. So this slide represents our actual results relative to our projections. And again, net revenue came in at 2.4% over what we budgeted for as a result of better participation rates, and expenses were under by about 2%, again, because of the hedging activity and us being able to procure at a lower market price than the current market rate. So that based on the projections, we were able to come in higher than what we projected in terms of our net position. So Tim, am I missing anything or anything to add?
No, Eric, I think you covered it pretty well. I mean, I could add a little bit more color. Our professional services was a little bit lower, also contributing to the lower expenses, mostly because we had credits from our data management Calpine consultant that we still had to use for the fiscal year. So that's, I think, the biggest contributor. That's nothing that Eric mentioned in terms of energy, was that professional services being lower because of that credit.
Yeah, and again, just as you're aware, our energy costs is the largest cost center in our budget and in our actual budget, our projection, as well as our actual results. So next slide, Kimberly. So this is just a different way of presenting sort of the budget to actual results, just really high level. Again, our net revenue coming in higher than what we actually budgeted for, ultimately contributing a better than expected net position, which feeds into our reserve and our reserve policy. Next slide, Kimberly. So again, the recommendation here is that the Finance and Risk Management Committee recommend advancing the Treasurer's report to the board for receive and file for our fiscal year period ending 6/30/2022. I'll turn it back over to you, Chair.
Questions? Comments? Eric, the only thing I would add, can we put in there our reserves also? So you've got our final net position, but I know we've got some reserves and some targets we're looking at down the future.
Yes. Yes.
Because that's always a really important number for me to look at where our reserves are. I appreciate you coming in higher. That's good. You're adding to our reserves and putting us in a better position. But especially right now with everything in flux, we need that cushion to help us stabilize the rates and keep us in a good financial position.
Thanks for that feedback, Chair Hamora. Noted.
I'll jump in. Thank you, Chair, for mentioning that about the reserve. I think that is a critical number. But kudos to everybody that made this possible. All the good work and outreach that kept the opt-outs low, and those who were involved in the hedging component that kept our costs low. And the small little organization pumped upwards of $400 million through the organization. Pretty amazing effort. So kudos to everybody from Karen on down through the collective staff. So kudos for you. I don't have any other questions, and I'll move the staff recommendation.
I will second that. And so we have consensus to move on and receive and file the report.
Okay, thank you again, Chair Hamora and Director LaCava. This last slide, this may look familiar to you, Director LaCava, from the board meeting when our Chief Executive presented the what next in her management report. So just thought it would be a good idea to bring that back here just to give an update. So for the balance of September, we'll also queue up our July year-to-date, which will be the results of our first month in our fiscal year 2023. As a result of the timing of the FRMC being the first Thursday, our accounting team is working on closing out the records for the first month of our fiscal year fiscal year to date as of July 30, fiscal year 2023. We're also in audit season. So you'll recall last year, the auditor came to this committee to make a report out in terms of preliminary results of the audit. And we presented also at that meeting a draft of the audited financial statement as a fiscal year end. So that will play out. We're actually ahead of schedule this year. I think that was processed or queued up for December or January of last year. So the goal this year is to have everything pretty much wrapped up by the end of October. So that'll come to the FRMC at our scheduled October 6th meeting, where we'll have a presentation from our auditor, Precenti and Brinker, and then that will advance to the board for final approval and ratification, ideally during our October 27th scheduled board meeting. So that concludes my comments and remarks. Chair Hamora, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you very much. I don't see anything else on the agenda except for committee announcements. Director LaCava, anything from you?
Nothing from me. Thank you.
Nothing from me. Karen, anything for us?
Nope, nothing on my end.
Then we are adjourned for September. Thank you all very much.
Great. Thank you.
Again.
Bye
See
now.
you soon.